Hey, this is Tox
And Jamie.
from the band Heavy, and you're listening to Doom Tomb Podcast. And I like to sometimes watch midgets riding donkeys jumping through flaming hoops. Sometimes I have a real problem with getting off, so I have to look at really weird shit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Doom Tomb Podcast. My name is Chris. I am your host, and today on the podcast, we have all of the band members from the band Mortalis. Mortalis is has this stoner vibe with a little bit of punk psychedelic mixed in with it. They're based out of Austin, Texas, and we get into a few things, talking about music, what they have currently, what they have coming up. If you need to, hey, pause this for a minute. Go on social media and follow them on Facebook, follow them on Instagram, follow them on Bandcamp so you know when they have new material coming out. And if they're going to be playing at a space near you. I know they do a lot of stuff over in Texas, but I know they're expanding their realm, so look out for them. They are definitely a band to watch. We get into a lot of things on this podcast, and one of them is cannibalism. And you might want to say, why cannibalism? Well, if you haven't listened to the previous podcast, you might want to do that, and you'll have a clearer idea. Also, we have a track coming up later. There was this band that I reached out to, and they were kind enough to reach out back to me, and they are called Owlcrusher. And Owlcrusher is kind of across the pond. They are in Northern Ireland. They're a three-piece band. They formed quite a bit ago, and they have a debut album out, so I'm going to put a link in the show notes, and I'm going to put a track on later so we could check that out. And finally, if you have not checked out Forever Doomed Streetwear, go and check them out. They're a cool bunch of people, and they have a first run of some merch right now, and they're creating their second run now. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great ideas as far as illustrations and etc. So if you have not gone there yet, check out Forever Doomed Streetwear on Facebook. All right, I think we got all that taken care of and cleared out of the way. Now it's time to get into the interview. This is Mortalis. Location at South by Southwest at Texas Miss with band members from Mortalis. Gentlemen, how the hell are you?
What's up, man? How are you?
Awesome. Now, could you please go around the horn and introduce yourselves?
Sure, yeah. I'm Lucas Intercobs. I'm the singer, rhythm guitarist.
I'm Luis, who play the bass.
I'm Michael. I play lead guitar and rhythm guitar and backup vocals.
I'm Brett, and I play drums.
Brett, man, I just saw your set. And I got to say, it's damn incredible. And, man, you're pounding those skins, brother. But the one thing, I want to go around the horn because I want to talk, of course, I want to talk a little bit about equipment. You're the first person that I've seen lately in this, stoner doom kind of scene that plays a Gretsch.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that, too. And we've gotten a couple comments about using Black Star amps also in this kind of the type of music we're doing. It's kind of funny because I got all my equipment stolen 5 years ago, right? That's not the funny part. But I got all my equipment stolen, and, basically whatever insurance covered it, and I got to replace all of it with better shit, basically. And I wanted originally, I was thinking about doing a garage rock type of, kind of surf rock band.
Right.
So I went to a music shop, local shop, and I just let him know what I was doing, and he suggested a Gretsch, and he suggested Black Star, and I was like, cool. And then I met up with these dudes, and we went a totally different direction, and it just ended up tonally working out pretty well.
You know, while we're on that subject, because it's a topic of conversation on pretty much every podcast, can you go around the horn and just tell me a little bit about the equipment you're using and why you chose it? I know yours is the Gretsch.
Yeah, I got the Gretsch. I think it's a GF 420 or something like that, or 540.
Right.
Really nice, semi-hollow body guitar. I call it Cadillac because it's black and gold. And then I got a Black Star. I don't even know. It's a 112 single tube amp. big on jargons. 40 watt, but it's a really nice piece of equipment. It's like a anniversary edition of their amp, and just got lucky and got the last one.
Sure.
That was in stock. But yeah, let me pass it off to Luis here.
Yeah, sure.
I play out of Ampeg SVT Classic. I'm not really sure why, but it was just something that I always tried aiming for.
Did it give you? It gives you the tone you want.
Oh man, not only that, but it's just fucking powerful.
Right.
I just never put it above like 3 on the volume now, because like anything else, I know will just completely knock your socks off.
You'll blow out the entire area.
Oh yeah. But I love it because of its tone. I play through a Fender jazz bass.
Right.
But I've modified the shit out of it at this point. I've replaced the bridge. I tuned it down to a pretty low tuning. I just like the aggressiveness that it gives out.
Absolutely.
On the low notes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what about yourself, sir?
So I play through it was my first guitar. It's a Fender Stratocaster, but it's I use Fender Tex-Mex pickups in it. And it just, I don't know, I've always enjoyed the versatility, and it just seems, when we first started, actually before we started this band, to kind of deviate from this just slightly, before we started this band, when I first met Lucas, he was playing through his stuff, and I brought my stuff, and we just kind of, how we got a lot, like when we first started to become friends, we noticed that our guitars, they just seemed to like really complement each other sonically.
Absolutely, they do.
So that was kind of like what sealed the deal for us, and we just ran with it. But I run that Stratocaster through a Black Star. It's a head, 40 watt head, into actually a old crate. 2x12 cab. It's
I hear that a lot. Sometimes people are using stuff, man, like from the 70s, and taking it on tour. I mean, I would want to kind of baby that animal if I could, because you never know when that thing's going to break down, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's actually, I'm surprised, because I mean, no, not to belittle like a company or anything, but Crate's not exactly known for their longevity, I guess, but I've had that cab for quite a while, and it's held up pretty well, and the speakers are still stock, and I think they still sound fantastic. So,
Absolutely.
And I run through a number of pedals as well.
Right. What's your favorite?
Oh my lord. A lot. I mean, I love fuzz, of course. I have a swollen pickle from Dunlop that I use mostly for lead guitar tone. I use a lot of electro harmonics. Huge fan of their stuff.
Cool.
But I try to keep it simple. It's basically a fuzz, a reverb. I like to use 2 delays because I mean, you can never have enough delay. Sometimes when you want to get like super trippy and
go a little psych.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Which is, I guess, part of our background, and yeah.
Maybe that's a good. Maybe I'll segue into that. When we can go around again and just, or maybe talk to one of you and just tell me what you would consider yourselves. What would you classify yourselves as? I don't want to give you a label, so maybe if you have one, I'd love to hear it.
Sure.
But first, I'd love to hear about the drum kit.
I play a Pearl set. I'm not exactly keen on the exact kind. I've never focused on brands or certain kinds of gear, but
Right.
Pearl drums with a variety of Sabian cymbals.
Yeah.
Mostly B8, and I think I have a Zildjian on there. But it's my second drum set.
Okay.
I've been playing for about 9 or 10 years now.
Really? And I hate to say this because I'm staring right at you. 9-10 years, and I know you.
Yeah.
I hope you don't
Yeah.
take offense, but like, did you start when you were 10? What?
I get it all. I look like I'm 15 years old.
Right.
But I'm actually 22.
Really?
1 year past drinking.
Outstanding. Are we gonna have some beverages today or what?
We had one at the High Sign Brewery a while ago.
What'd you grab?
Got a Seamus Irish Red.
Well, it's perfect because hey, tomorrow, man, we got to throw down. We got to have some corned beef and cabbage, grab a few beers. Tomorrow's the day, Ben.
I would love any kind of food right now. I haven't eaten since like 9 o'clock.
As we have been told, there is a taco truck that will be out later. If you guys weren't here yesterday, right?
No.
That taco truck, man, get it before it sells out. They sold out yesterday, and they have some killer stuff. I gotta actually, once they're out there, I gotta promote them when they come back because that stuff was so good. You eat it so damn fast, you can't wait to have some more.
Heard.
So
They had 8 tacos.
they had what?
8 tacos yesterday, and I was just like, I'm going to try and beat that today.
Well,
Set a new record.
I'd say I don't know how their stomachs today, but well, man, that stuff was so good yesterday. So, what would you? Maybe I'll go to you and I'll pass around if anybody wants to add. What would you classify your music as?
Mortales is gnar. Gnar, dude.
I actually saw you guys. You said that on Bandcamp, and I wanted to go over that. A few of your releases now. You have a release coming up soon. Yes.
Yes, we do. Yeah, it's called Look Alive. It's coming out. Hopefully, we're aiming for April, maybe May, if things get a little delayed. But yeah, man, we finally wrapped up everything. We've been working on it for about, I would say, a year. Lost a drummer halfway through. Got Brett joining the band like for about 6 months now, and finally wrapped it up, and we're really, really excited. So looking forward to it. So for the last 3 months, we've been trying to build up some anticipation, get some new content out there, man. Because we had a demo that came out maybe a year and a half ago. And we hadn't released shit since then. And we were just like, man, we can't keep writing on the same 5 songs for a year and a half. And we've been sitting on this stuff for a while. So yeah, we were really excited to release it. We released like 3 extended tracks in the last 3 months, and I think it's gonna be like 9 tracks total on the album. So getting really excited, man.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about any of the tracks? Maybe like since we don't have the material in front of us. Can you tell me a little bit about it? Like, what was one of the easiest tracks that took really no time at all to create?
Oh wow, that is a really good question. What would you think, Michael?
I feel like Psychic Violence came together really, really quickly. I mean, that was kind of like a two-taker. I feel like.
Yeah, we kind of got in this groove lately where we're starting to write 2 songs in one. So we are having fun playing with going from really fast to really slow, and going back and forth in songs in different styles. So like a lot of these extended tracks, quote unquote, are going to end up being 1 or 2 tracks on the record, and they're just going to seamlessly kind of flow into each other. Psychic Violence definitely is, which is going to be the opener on the record, we think, which is the one that we opened the show with today.
Yeah, that's what we're leaning towards.
That one is, it came together really, really easily. It was a really kind of straightforward concept that we had for the song.
But it's different than a lot of the stuff that we were doing previously to it, too.
Yeah, it almost has like an AC/DC vibe to it, mixed with, like, in my opinion, like Bad Religion type of like chorus, like more of a punky type chorus. And then halfway through, it just switches gears and goes into this prog psychedelic stoner jam, and it gets really bluesy.
It's just grungy and dark.
Yeah,
it's very, I don't know. Yeah,
it's that one. That was definitely like when we wrote that, we were just like, okay, this is definitely where we're headed, right? So that got us really excited.
And like you said, it's gnar. It's not gnarly, but gnar.
Oh, totally gnar.
So, what track on this upcoming release took the longest time to create?
Ooh, that's also really good. We had to cut a song from the album that was like a 12-minute fucking masterpiece.
Like an opus.
Like, it was our opus for sure, and it took us a really long time to get it down. We switched timings, like time signatures, like 3-4 times.
Time
in the
signatures.
Song.
We changed keys halfway through it. I mean, you name any kind of like deviation from the norm you can think of.
Yeah,
we did it, and
musical masturbation, in other words. We didn't know when to stop. So it took us a long time to record it. We were never really happy with the recording. And then we kind of came back around to it maybe like 6 months later, and we were just like, you know what? This is a big chunk of the record, but like I feel like, we all kind of felt that it didn't work anymore. Yeah. So surprisingly, after that, we ended up writing another 10-minute song, which is what we closed tonight the show with today.
Oh, with the Round Up the Devils.
Round Up the Devils, which is another one that kind of came together really easily. It's a riff that I've been sitting on for a year, and then we just got the right people together in the same room, and it came together.
Right. So do you think that you'll ever maybe put that other track out as maybe a single or something? Or
I think we'll probably end up ultimately just cannibalizing it, and maybe you'll find certain parts of it in other songs in the future somewhere. There was some really, really cool stuff, but altogether it was a little bit too bloated, a little too self-important. I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. Yeah.
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I personally have only heard the instrumental version of that song like once in the studio.
Right.
So I haven't heard the main core of it, but that just gives us a fresh ear to start on it again if we ever decide to extract some of the riffs from it.
Sure. Like, you talk, like, these are other bands maybe outside of the genre, but you talk about, like, the Beatles. They had, I forgot, I'm blanking on the song, but there's a song, it was actually 3 different songs, and they took the 3 different parts of it and put it together into one song. Same with Billy Joel. Billy Joel did it with Scenes from an Italian Restaurant years ago, where it's like he had this piece, and it wasn't all complete. Just jammed it all together and created this, this fantastic song.
Just on a kind of a side note, but related, I've been listening to a lot of Cypress Hill lately and like a lot of 90s hip hop. And so I've been watching like a lot of videos about like the behind the stories of some of these songs. And I don't know if you know the song "How I Could Just Kill a Man" by Cypress Hill, right? Huge hit. And
something I just don't understand.
and one of the songs that got me into hip hop, right? And I was probably like 8 years old. And so I learned the other day, a similar story. It was 3 different songs, two different beats that they end up slapping together, and 3 different like choruses and verses that they end up slapping together. Right. And all of a sudden it's a hit.
Now, are you a big follower of all hip hop, or just you sticking with the 90s?
I'm a huge hip hop fan.
Okay. Yeah. Have you ever heard of a hip hop artist called Ill Bill?
I have not, actually.
Okay. If you know DJ Muggs.
DJ Muggs.
So if you get a chance, Ill Bill and DJ Muggs did a release called Kill Devil Hills. It's got to be one of my favorite hip hop albums of all time, and you got to check it out because you hear some of this current rap, and it's what they call it mumble rap right now, where it's almost like they're using the vocal as a kind of instrument. But even in listening to some of the interviews with people, they're saying like, I don't even know the lyrics. Like, I'm just mumbling it. And
right. It's like as long as it's catchy, people will like it.
Yeah, and then, somebody like this Kill Devil Hills album, like the first song right off the bat, they're talking about conspiracy theories and all kinds of other weirdness. And you're just like, this is so unbelievably refreshing over just hearing, I don't need to hear about sipping syrup every song. Right. I don't need to hear about the rest of the junk. And after a while, it gets kind of tiresome. Like, what else do you have? What else can you go to?
Absolutely. I mean, I kind of, feel the same way a little bit about the genre that we might potentially be trying to put ourselves in, which is like stoner rock, doom rock, and everything, where it's just like it is hard to find bands that really stand out in those genres. Right. And I think that's something that like I really enjoy the music that we play, because I feel like from our varied backgrounds, like I used to play in a reggae band. I used to be in a band that like I played banjo in it, and I used to be in like a folk band and everything. And then going from listening to a ton of reggae and ska and then punk music in high school, and then going into metal, and all of a sudden like meeting these guys, and they're the ones that introduced me to Maiden and all these Windhand and all these new bands that I'm listening to now. Right. And I think like they have a completely very different background. Brett has a completely varied background, and it's just like I really enjoy like the sound that we're able to get from all of that, because it just comes together nicely. And sometimes it takes a little bit to. You gotta really, fucking finagle it in there sometimes, but it'll work.
Yeah, we're definitely kind of not exact. I mean, sure, we borrow a lot from like stoner rock and doom, but I mean, we all come from like different backgrounds, and it's kind of it's never been our goal to really like fit within like a certain like type of genre. I feel like we're just kind of doing what we know. The only way we know how to do, which is, and we're just, have such a wide variety of influences, because Lucas, like, I never was really like a punk guy, but Lucas really kind of pushed me into that direction, and it's been, pretty cool. Same with Brett. He's kind of turned me on to a lot of like more that direction. And me and Luis over here, like our bass player, he's we grew up together, and we come from a more of like a metal kind of weird like outsider like kind of like background, I guess.
And that's what's helped in our, as far as like keeping it varied, is our writing process, I feel. Usually someone will come in with one idea for a song, and like what song was it that we were working on for a while there? We were kind of like stuck on it, and then just so happened that one of us went on vacation for an extended weekend or something, and
that was Round Up the
Devils. It was Round Up the Devils. Yeah, that was
sick.
Yeah, so
go to practice, and then we ended up writing all the parts that we were missing.
Yeah, so Round Up the Devils, that was the one. It's a pretty about 10-minute long song, but that was we were stuck on it for the longest time, and then it just sort of Lucas went away for a while, and then we was just like, oh, go work on the song, and then we did.
Yeah, I feel like the inherent process itself forces us to make it varied just enough to where like makes it interesting at the end,
Now, you were saying that you had some different influences. What are some of your influences that you bring to the table?
I'm more of an kind of alternative rock guy. I was raised very white. A lot of the mainstream stuff, and a lot of the Blink-182, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Eventually, that evolved into more progressive. I love the Mars Volta. I love Rush, but also keeping it the Hives, Minor Threat, punk. And these guys are actually really my first experience into the kind of psychedelic stoner kind of stuff. The most I've ever gotten into that was, some Fly Golden Eagle stuff maybe. But it's been a very cool experience, and I've learned a lot about being in that kind of band. It's a very different feel. It's very fresh every time we do something new.
Well, as I'm going around and looking at you guys, you all have smiles on your face. Like, you seem like you're really enjoying the scene and enjoying what you're doing on stage. If I can, I have to go to a cheesy question for just a minute. How'd you get the band name?
I would like to know that too.
All right, who's got the story?
Because I can tell a version of it.
You could go.
Probably gonna be angry.
You can go ahead, or do you have the story, or is the other story?
I can start it out.
Okay.
We used to be called De los Muertos.
What was it?
De los Muertos.
Okay.
Like Dia de los Muertos?
Yes.
Yeah. Of the dead.
Yep.
And it just so happened that we were Google searching just to make sure before we finalized with everything as far as the name of the band and all that.
And nobody had it.
Right. And it turns out that a band in San Antonio that hasn't been together in, 8 years or something like that?
Played a show since 2010, I think.
They reunited that weekend, apparently.
No, jeez.
And, we felt like we had to play it safe, like we had to get something else instead.
So you came up with Mortalis.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we didn't come up with that. We were having a lot of trouble coming up with names that haven't been taken, man, because everything's taken. That's why we were so psyched about De Los Muertos. So whenever we were trying to think of names, we were thinking of Famous Monsters, and that's taken, and we thought of some other Chromonaut and all these other stuff, and nothing really felt right.
Yeah.
And we all of us except Brett, obviously, we all come from Hispanic backgrounds. So Luis, was born in South America. My parents are Dominican. Michael has a Mexican background, right?
We're Texan,
Yeah,
but we've been here a long time.
Oh yeah.
Tex-Mex.
Yeah.
A little Tex-Mex over there. He's a little queso.
So what you're saying is he's a little cheesy.
He's a little cheesy. He's a little cheese balls.
That's what makes it so good.
But we wanted to stick with the Latin thing. We wanted to kind of represent, our cultural background. And so I started reaching out to my family, and I was just like, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, try and come up with some cool names. And my parents were just texting me constantly all day, every day. And then my mom came up with Ritmo Mortalis Band. And I was like, well, we're not a merengue band, so we're not going to be called that. But I told these guys as a joke, and we were just like, well, Mortalis. And we're just like, And we kind of sat on it for a little bit, and we're just like, it is kind of in the same vein of the dead, mortal, Mortalis. It's all, we're all gonna
mortality,
fucking die,
but also being dangerous.
Yeah,
Mortalis.
Yeah. So yeah, we settled on that, and it's definitely it's taken the place of De Los Muertos now. Finally, it took a long time for De Los Muertos to wear off.
And as the resident white man in the band, what do you think?
Hello, that's me. Brett Hanrahan.
How do you feel about that name? You enjoying it?
I thought it was very cool. Mortales. It's pretty easy to get the translation.
Yep.
So I wasn't too confused. But it was very cool. I was very excited to be more of a, kind of Mexican influenced group, even if it doesn't come across the music, as much as it would if you had a Spanish name.
Sure.
But I think that thank you. I think our background also, and our kind of how much pride we take in like our heritage and our culture and everything, I think definitely is involved in a lot of the lyrics that we write. I think like we definitely come from a unique perspective in that sense, is coming from parents of immigrants, and Michael's been ingrained here for a while, but Luis is first generation, I'm second generation. I think and the struggles and what makes life interesting and being that type of, coming with that type of background, I think definitely is reflected in a lot of those things that we write.
So in getting with that, with the lyrics, what are the majority of the songs? What's the lyrical subject matter? Who's a major lyric writer?
I guess that would be me.
Okay.
Definitely, it's definitely a group effort a lot of the times. Everyone has input, but yeah, I would say I come to the table with try and have a whole song together, and then
right.
And I go like, do you guys like this or not? And then we kind of play with it. But there's been a lot happening, man, in the last couple of years, and not just in our country, but all over the world. And I think, again, coming from my background of being in a punk band in high school and really during the George Bush eras where, everyone our age was just like very political and very involved, and
still now.
Feeling like I haven't been since then, and realizing that it's almost mandatory to be that way now, and all the pressures that come with that. And I think that's where a lot of my material comes from, just like the confusion of everything that's happening right now, trying to make sense of it all, and really trying to make what I see a lot of our songs is like a call to action. It's really trying to call things out and trying to call people to do something about it.
And that's a perfect segue into some of the material that you already have on Bandcamp before the next release. If I could go over that and we could talk a little bit about the tracks.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we have Psychic Violence. Nothing good happens after midnight. Now, before you tell me, it's like, my mom used to tell me that, but she was a little later. She said nothing good happens after 2 a.m. So, okay. Can you tell me a little bit about that track and what that means? And sure. I know you're going to say something. Does anybody else have anything to add to it?
So I guess I guess the way I personally interpret the lyrics myself is kind of like, I think we were like, we had the song, the basic like framework for it and everything, and just the idea of like, I guess maybe the media culture that we have now, particularly here in the United States, is a lot of like, it's gotten to the point to where it's so hard to like kind of divine like what exactly is truth, what is not, like what is just an outright falsehood, and it's just the blurring of the lines. It's like kind of like a sci-fi kind of like deal of like, just like that kind of like bleeding into our like universe and reality, and kind of just like, these falsehoods and lies and just this toxic culture, like literally just kind of destroying the fabric of space and time, I guess. Yeah.
It feels like
psychic violence.
It feels like every day there's just something that's fairly important that has happened. And ultimately, I think, it leads to a certain type of like numbness to it all, which I feel that's what the music's trying to convey as far as that song. Right. Go ahead.
No, and I just had to add, like, when it comes to the lyrics, definitely Michael was kind of the ringleader and like the idea, the concept of the song, and when it came to the lyrics, I really wanted to use, when he said psychic violence, my first thought went to MK Ultra experiments. Sure. So I did, I did a fair amount of research on it and just try to learn a little bit about what exactly happened and what people went through, and so I try to use some of that imagery a little bit of just someone trying to basically losing their minds.
Right. Or have their mind controlled.
Yeah. And just realizing that you're not controlling anything around you, and all you can do is just watch.
So, are you a big conspiracy dude?
I'm a huge conspiracy guy. Yeah.
Okay, so give me a few that you're currently studying or interested in.
Man, speaking of Blink-182, Brett, Tom DeLonge apparently is losing his fucking mind.
Yeah, have you seen the stuff on social that he's doing?
I've been watching a whole bunch of...
Right?
Yeah.
The alien guy, right?
Yeah. He's the guy who... So he quit Blink-182. Apparently he's met with some like really high up government officials about alien...
Ghostbusters was that actor, the one with the...
Oh, Dan Aykroyd?
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
He's into the UFOs too.
He just balls fucking crazy now, but no, yeah, I'm really like into the Tom DeLonge, like to the stars. I think is the academy that he's ahead of now, and they just released footage.
Yep.
They just released footage like a week ago about like some alien UFO flying around, and it's like classified footage. So I'm really into whatever's going on with him right now.
And if you were to think like a power pop punk band would all of a sudden go into conspiracy theories, you'd be like, no, I just don't see it. But now, what do you think about that?
I think that's just natural evolution.
Right.
I feel like that's where they were destined to go. Right? They already talked about their town and their parents in school. So now it's like conspiracy aliens. They're out there.
Do you remember the song on Enema of the State that he said like, "Hey mom, there's something in the back room. Hope it's not their creatures from above." He's like he was writing about aliens even back then.
Yeah, he knew it all along. There are aliens out there. It's only a matter of time till we find them or they find us.
So
right?
maybe all the small things are actually little small aliens running around. Could that be it? So let's go to your other track, Overflow's Vampires. What can you tell me about that?
That was a fun one. Really quick, I can give a little bit. So my idea for the song was talking about, it's kind of a personal thing for me, is at night when you're trying to go to bed and all of a sudden you're just flooded by your thoughts and anxieties and everything, and it's like basically becoming an insomniac because you're just obsessing over things and you can't relax. So Overflows to me was the idea of, that's one of those two-parter songs. It's like one song and then the last 2 minutes is a whole different song. And the first half of the song is basically talking about how, the anxiety, the creature is just waiting for nighttime to come out. And then it's just kind of waiting. It says like an open door, like he's sweating from the side of an open door because it's like, ooh, I can get out, And then the second half of the song, Vampires, is talking about when they finally do come out at night and they just fucking suck all your energy. And that's what that song is about.
So just putting those two words together, is there a little bit about that you're talking about, like energy vampires, meaning in the sense of like somebody that just zaps your energy, like just not an extraterrestrial or anything, but just like an average everyday human, where you could tell there's some people that have such great energy and other people, all they do is just try to draw from you?
I mean, that's definitely an interpretation, and that's what my lyrics are kind of that way. I think the way that we write is open to interpretation, so I love like hearing other people's ideas of what it could be. I mean, you could definitely take that from that song, and it would apply just as strongly as what I originally intended it for.
Now, we discussed a little bit about some of your influences as a drummer. Could anybody else say of any other influences, major influences growing up, or things that really got you? Like you obviously all have a different heritage and different background. Did you listen to, and I apologize if I'm speaking out of turn, like just music of your culture?
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, of course, for me, like when I started playing guitar, I mean, one of my like first guitar heroes was Carlos Santana, was
absolutely
a big influence. But I mean, I'm just speaking personally, like him, David Gilmour, Pink Floyd,
right?
Nowadays, I get a lot of influence from like, and you can hear this, I kind of on like Overflows during the solo. It's a kind of a noise solo, but I was greatly inspired by Sonny Chirac, the jazz guitarist,
yes.
Who I greatly admire.
I hear that a lot, whether it's in this genre or other genres, even some hardcore genres. There's like, and not completely hardcore, but like a band like Helmet.
Yeah.
Page
great.
Hamilton, jazz influence, jazz taught. And there's several others. This comes up on the podcast a lot, where a lot of people in this genre get influenced by jazz. Do you have a reason? Is there a reason why, do you think?
I mean, for me, jazz, I think part of it is, I mean, jazz has always been kind of about freedom,
Right.
particularly, it's oftentimes construed as wankery, which is totally like justifiable in a lot of cases. But then you have like that kind of synchronization of these different musicians coming together, and it's just pure expression. And I think that's what a lot of people, at least for me, like what I enjoy about the music that we do is it allows all of us to express ourselves and be ourselves, and it's very freeing. There's nothing like it at all.
Absolutely. Now, with talking about music, getting on stage and et cetera, and I'll start with yourself. Do any of you have any warm-up techniques, or maybe like a warm-up noodle? Like there's a band back where I am in Arizona, and almost every set that this one band starts, he always noodles to "Give Me 3 Steps" from Skinner. He says,
Yeah.
"No, it's just my warm-up. That's just what I like." Is there anything that you have?
Me personally, not really. I just kind of just go for it, really.
Right.
What about you, Lewis?
Just to kind of like loosen up the fingers, because I do play with my hands.
Yeah.
I just tap it on my knee or my thigh. So just kind of like build it up, go faster, slow it down a little bit. Just because usually with like the harder songs that we have,
Right.
I find that sometimes it's much better if I warm up to that speed, that level
Sure.
of the song, especially in the very beginning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, do you warm up to anything specific? Do you have any specific beats?
I like to try out Goliath by the Mars Volta and then give up because that song is just above me.
Right.
But it works for humility and a warm-up.
Now, you mentioned earlier Rush. Any kind of warm-up by Mr., I want to say it correct, Peart?
Mr. Peart. I believe Peart is the correct way, but I'll always say Pert just because it's easier on me. I do jam YYZ sometimes.
Right.
Maybe the solo to Tom Sawyer, maybe pretty much anything off Permanent Waves and Moving Pictures in 2112. The greatest song ever made, 2112.
The Overture, right before Temple of Syrinx.
Yeah. I do love Temple of Syrinx because he does some fills in between parts
Those
that are
fills
like
are-
very interesting.
Oh, that song you mentioned, Temple of Series, I fucking love that song.
That was the song that of the temples.
Yeah.
I should actually give the mic to him. He's the singer. Meanwhile, we got some podcaster and the drummer singing. But yeah, that was my introduction to Rush, was that song, and I then just go back and Fly By Night and Caress of Steel, and then
So
go back
good.
up. And
Yeah.
so when playing live, what is the easiest song to play live, and then what is the most difficult?
Easiest song for sure is Nowadays, man. For us, it's like a 2.5 minute, balls to the wall, very garage rocky, like punk band or punk song. Hardest?
Hardest? I don't know. I mean,
Round of the Devils is pretty fucking hard.
it's pretty hard, but we did a really good job today.
We did.
I think.
I was proud of it.
Yeah. Surprisingly. Yeah, I don't know.
I would say my hardest song is Round of the Devils, even though that's one of the riffs that I wrote. It's still hard for me to fucking play.
Do you ever write something specifically? Like I heard interviews with Jack White, and he says sometimes I try to do the most difficult and where my hands are spread apart the farthest, and I have to reach the furthest so I can feel it more. Is that something that you've ever done, or are you just like, no, I just rather be in the pocket? Or
I've definitely done that myself, but not on recording, at least not yet. But yeah, definitely. I mean,
I've gotten so much better playing with these guys, and I did write a riff before we even got together that I physically couldn't write. I wasn't good enough to play it yet, but I wrote it in my head. And then getting together with these guys, and I hummed it to them, and they were just like, all right, well, it's just like, there's been a few things where I'm like, no, I physically can't play that. And they're like, let's just practice it, we'll get it. I'm like, no, I'm not, I physically can't do it. And then we eventually get it, and that was one that I was like, that's one I'm really proud of, the House You Built. We played that today because I literally couldn't, 2 years ago, I couldn't play that riff.
right now, guys, I want to thank you so much for sticking around with me, and for everybody that's listening out there. I should have told you to pause this earlier and so you could actually follow everybody on social media. I have a few questions, and then I want to let everybody know how to reach you all. Now, before you go, I have a question that the previous band asked you all. Now, after that, while I'm saying that, I want you to come up with a question that ask the next band. Don't know who it's going to be. Have no idea. Now, the question was, you're in a plane crash, and I think you know where this is going. Somebody has to get eaten first. Now, who's getting eaten first? You want to go around and chat?
No.
Is that an easy?
It's pretty certain it's Lucas.
It's probably me.
It's definitely Lucas.
I'm looking good right now. I'm just marbled. You can tell.
So are you more like a Wagyu steak or like a sirloin?
I would say more of like a ribeye, just gluttonous fat.
Just full ribeye.
Yeah, just you're gonna have to really trim me, a little bit.
Now, so since we've all decided that it's going to be him, what do you think? Like a solid marinade, like a mojo marinade?
Oh, man.
Or do we just do a little? Oh, there it is. Look, hey man, when you got a tool like that, you got to be able to shed over it,
Eyes out.
So, would you do more like just a basic salt, pepper, kind of, and maybe a little butter, a little rosemary at the end? Like, what would you do?
I think to honor Lucas, we definitely need some kind of like mojo, something super garlicky,
right?
Maybe even like something tomato based. I mean,
would
think
you add
it'd
like
be pretty awesome.
a little bit of citrus with that, with the mojo? And
oh yes, yeah, with a side of yucca if possible.
Oh, nice. That is a good call, my friend.
Oh my lord, I'm so hungry now.
And maybe is there a chance?
Close enough.
Is there a chance that we could turn something into like a little bit of chicharron?
Chicharron? Oh, yeah.
Like right in a little bit of the side, a little bit of the back?
Absolutely.
All right.
We got chicharron lobes.
So now that we have that said, what is the question? Or if you have more than one question, I'm down. What question would you want to ask the next band?
What is the maximum amount of strings you would ever want your guitar to have?
Okay. All right. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, me too.
You agree with that?
Yes.
You agree with that question?
Absolutely.
Okay, does anybody have another question? All right. If we're good, gentlemen, I want to thank you all very much for your time. Please tell everybody how to contact you on social media so they can get some of this great material.
So we can be found on Facebook as Mortalis Music after facebook.com.
MORTALES.
Yes, sir. Music.
All right.
And also we have a website, mortalismusic.com, and that will just take you to our Bandcamp page, and that's where you can hear all of our stuff.
Hear your stuff and buy your merch and get down with some Mortalis.
Yep, exactly.
All right, guys, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the day. Let's have a few beers, all right?
Indeed. Thank you.
Take care.
I want to give a quick thanks to the guys in Mortalis for giving me their time, and Damon and Texas Mist for having me at Stoner Days Fest. That was fantastic. Can't wait to do it next year. Until that time, let's hear a track from Mortalis. Now, I know my mom used to tell me that nothing good happens after 2 a.m., but this seems to be like a paradigm shift or something, because the name of this track is called Psychic Violence. Nothing good happens after midnight.
Guns, things I run over fallen body stuff from my power
Next up is the band Owlcrusher. They are a 3-piece doom sludge band based out of Northern Ireland, and they have their latest release out. It's self-titled Owlcrusher, Owlcrusher, all one word. It is fantastic. If you're into that doomy, sludgy, grimy metal, this is it. Listen to it right now. We're going to do the title track. This is Owlcrusher by, yeah, that's right, Owlcrusher. As always, I want to thank everybody for sticking around towards the end. If you need to reach us, you can do so on social media at Doomtomb Podcast. You can also reach us by email at doomtombpodcast@gmail.com. And if you get a chance, if you could swing over to iTunes, give us a rating, give us a review, that would be awesome. I'd really appreciate it. 5 stars would be amazing. I'd really like that. I know that it does something. It moves the needle a little bit somewhere, somehow, in the iTunes world. I'm not really sure how, but anyway. So next week we have the band members from Doomstress, and they were right between doing shows. They stopped off. They did this show. They had another show to do. So they were gracious enough to give us a little bit of time, and we sincerely appreciate that. So they will be on the next podcast, and we look forward to that. Until that time, hey, keep going to the shows, buy a little merch every once in a while, crank it up, and stay heavy.
Well, there's a quote that Dio told to Dave Mustaine one time, and it was, well, we can jerk each other off all day, or we can smoke this joint.